Hello, friends, and welcome to another Brian's Narrations. Well, we've got three fantastic stories for you to hear today, and you're going to be scratching your head, wondering how in the world people can get themselves into messes like these. Let's start with story number one. I'm a 42-year-old female and mother to my amazing daughter, Sarah. She's 18 years old, who is about to head off to college soon. I've been her primary caregiver and provider for most of her life, and she's the absolute light of my life. Sarah has always been hardworking. She's a smart kid, and she got into a great university with a partial scholarship. Now, I've worked hard to save up a college fund for her, so she won't have to worry about student loans and can focus on her studies. I had Sarah with my ex-husband, Jake, who's 44, who I divorced about 12 years ago when she was 6. We had a decent marriage in the early years, but things went downhill fast when I found out that Jake had been cheating on me for about a year with a woman named Claire, now 38. The cheating, of course, wasn't the only issue. It was the lies, the deceit, and ultimately the lack of respect for me and our daughter. Jake eventually left to be with Claire, and I was left picking up the pieces with our lives. Jake didn't want much to do with Sarah after the split, which absolutely broke my heart. He barely put in any effort to see her or support her emotionally or financially. To make matters worse, Claire was constantly in his ear, manipulating him and telling him that he shouldn't have to pay child support for Sarah because he needed to focus on his new life. She even went so far as to convince him that I was using Sarah as a way to trap him around into paying for something he didn't want to be responsible for. Like, what in the world is she talking about? I'm not the one to sit back and let someone take advantage of me, so I took Jake to court to secure child support for Sarah despite his reluctance. The court ordered him to pay, but guess what? He still barely paid anything. He would skip payments, make excuses, and sometimes disappear for months without sending a dime. At first, I would chase him down and try to get him to stick to the payments, but after a while, I realized it wasn't worth my energy. I worked 2 jobs for years to make sure Sarah had everything she needed. It was exhausting, but I did it, and I'm proud of the life that I built for us. Fast forward to a few years after the divorce, Jake and Claire had a child of their own, a little boy named Aiden. He's now 10. I won't lie, knowing that he was starting a whole new family while completely neglecting his responsibilities to Sarah really hurt me. But over the years, I came to terms with it. Sarah and I had our own life, and we didn't need Jake, or so I thought. Now, recently, something happened that completely blew my mind, and it all started when Sarah graduated high school a few months ago. She had a beautiful ceremony, and I was so proud of her. Jake didn't even bother to show up, and honestly, neither Sarah nor I were surprised. We've grown up to him being absent from the important moments in her life. After the ceremony, I posted some pictures online showing off how proud of my girl I was. We celebrated the milestone and things were great. That's when chaos began. A few weeks after Sarah graduated, I received an unexpected message from Claire. Now, keep in mind, this woman and I had almost no contact since the divorce. The few times I've had to deal with her, it's been through lawyers or court hearings about child support. So seeing her name pop up on my inbox was a huge red flag. The message basically said, "Hi, we need to talk about something important regarding Aiden and Sarah." My first thought was, what in the world do these people want now? But out of curiosity, I agreed to meet with her and Jake to see what this important matter was. We met up at a coffee shop, and right from the moment they sat down, I could tell something was off. Jake looked uncomfortable, and Claire had this smug look on her face that immediately set off alarm bells in my head. After a few awkward pleasantries, Claire finally cut to the chase. She said, "We've been having some financial difficulties lately, and we're really struggling to make ends meet. Jake's hours have been cut at work, and I've lost my job a few months ago. Things are really tight for us right now, and we're at the risk of losing our home." I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there waiting for her to get to the point because honestly, I had no idea why they were telling me all this. Then she dropped the bomb. "We're hoping you'd be willing to share half of Sarah's college fund with us for Aiden." I swear, I nearly choked on my coffee. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman, who had spent years keeping Jake from paying child support for Sarah, who had actively tried to alienate my daughter from her father, was now sitting across from me asking for money for her son, the same son that Jake has been dotting on while ignoring Sarah's existence. Now, I was stunned. I asked her to repeat herself because I genuinely thought I'd misheard. But no, she meant every word. She wanted me to take half of the money I had saved for my daughter's future and give it to their son. who I had no responsibility for. When he asked her why she thought I would ever do something like that, she had the audacity to say, well, Sarah has a scholarship, doesn't she? She won't need all that money for school. But Aiden doesn't have anything, and we're really struggling right now. I was absolutely floored by the entitlement. I couldn't believe that they thought that this was a reasonable request. I turned to Jake and asked him if he really agreed with this. He just sat there looking sheepish. I didn't say a word. Claire did all the talking for him as usual. I asked her why Jake couldn't just step up and provide for Aiden himself. After all, he had barely contributed to Sarah's life, so he should have plenty of money to support his new family, right? Claire got defensive and started making excuses about how Jake had been going through a tough time and how everyone made mistakes, but that they were trying to move forward as a family. Now, I sat there in disbelief, trying to wrap my head around the sheer nerve of these two. After everything they had put me and Sarah through, they seriously thought that they were entitled to our college fund? Then I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation hit me. I just laughed. Claire's face turned bright red, and Jake looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. I could tell they weren't expecting that reaction. Though my laughter, I told him, you must be out of your mind if you think I'm giving you a single cent of Sarah's money. She worked hard for that scholarship, and I worked hard to save up for her future. If you're struggling, that's not my problem. Maybe Jake should have thought about his responsibilities before abandoning his daughter refusing to pay child support. Claire tried to argue with me, but I cut her off. I told them not only would they be getting nothing from me, but I was also going to be filing a lawsuit to collect the back child support Jake owed me. At this point, he owes tens of thousands of dollars for child support, and I was done letting him get away with it. Jake finally spoke up and tried to beg me not to take him to court, saying that it would ruin him financially. I just looked him dead in the eye and said, that's not my problem. Maybe you should have thought about before abandoning your daughter. Claire got even more upset, accusing me of being heartless and vindictive. She said that I was punishing Aiden for something that wasn't his fault. I told her that Aiden wasn't my problem and that maybe they should have been more responsible with their finances if they didn't want to end up in this situation. The conversation ended with me walking out of the coffee shop while Claire was still ranting about how I was selfish and how they were just trying to do what's best for their family. A few days later, I got a call from Jake, begging me not to take him to court. He said that Claire was threatening to leave him if they lost the house and that they didn't know what to do. He tried to guilt me by saying that I was ruining Aiden's life by going after child support. I told him that it was his own actions that had led to this situation and that I wasn't going to back down. I'm currently in the process of suing him for the back child support he owes, and I fully intend to see it through. As for Sarah, she's fully aware of the situation and is completely on my side. She knows how hard I've worked to provide for her, and she's just as disgusted by Jake and Claire's behavior as I am. We had a lot of discussion about the importance of standing up for ourselves and not letting people take advantage of us, and I'm proud of the strong, independent woman that she's become. So Reddit, am I wrong for laughing in their faces, refusing to give them any of my daughter's college fund, and for suing Jake for the child support that he owes me? All right, what a story. I can't believe that. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Let's jump right into this next story. I recently discovered a note my fiance, who's 34, wrote me. I'm 35. We've been together now for 4.5 years, and we're planning to get married in March 2025. Please advise me how you would deal with this situation. Here's what the note said. If you plan to marry me, you should be inviting her to all functions. The issue is deeper. You don't seem comfortable inviting her everywhere because it reflects a lack of pride in her. She doesn't invite me to her events either, likely due to my past behavior and my history in the past events which called me for. Was her behavior at a friend's wedding really her fault? Am I truly happy if I constantly expect her to change and judge her? It's not about her English skills, but rather that I prefer someone whose thoughts are in English. The real issue isn't about parental approval. It's that I'm not sure about her. And if I were, we'd be married already. And my parents' opinions wouldn't matter. She feels more like a convenience right now. Reasons I'm considering marriage. I want stability and to focus on more important things in life than all this crap. I want to plan family trips. I want kids. He wrote it about 2 weeks ago. I read this note on his phone, and he's now blaming me for reading it without permission rather than acknowledging how hurtful it is. I broke up with him, but I'm questioning whether I made the right decision. He sometimes seems narcissistic, and I'm unsure if it's normal for someone to write such superficial evaluations of their partner after years of dating. If you've experienced something similar, I'd really appreciate your unbiased perspective. Thanks a lot. Let's jump right into story number 3 here. So, am I wrong for ditching a wedding that I, 20-year-old, was the maid of honor in because the bride, 22, tried to set me up with the best man who's 28? Okay, I know, a lot of info, right? So let's jump into this one. I was supposed to be the maid of honor at a wedding a few weeks ago. I ended up just leaving and going home to my boyfriend of 6 years after the bride and groom tried to set me up with the best man. Now, when my friend got engaged last year, I was excited for her and even more excited when she asked me to be the maid of honor. As invites went out, though, she asked me to not bring my boyfriend to the wedding. I was really upset about it, but my boyfriend talked me down, telling me that weddings were expensive and that they were probably trying to keep the guest list down and they didn't really know him, so it would be fine for me to go without him. That made sense to me, so I didn't say or do anything after that, and helping as I could as the maid of honor. Nothing else really concerning happened again until a couple of days before the wedding. The bride asked me to give the best man a ride to and from the wedding, which was about a 4-hour drive. I thought it was just part of it, as he was a veteran and had his own issues surrounding that, so I gave him a ride up to the Airbnb that we were staying at before the wedding. The whole time he tried to make conversation that was just weird to me, and I was not into it, and just trying my best to be nice to him. At the Airbnb with everyone, I immediately noticed things were off. All of the other bridesmaids had their boyfriends there, and things were really awkward when I found out I was in the same room with the best man. The next day before the rehearsal dinner, the bride and groom cornered me in the room to say that the best man was an incredible guy and that I was blowing him off without really giving him a chance. I told him, well, of course not. I have a serious long-term boyfriend, which y'all specifically told me not to bring. Then the bride cut in and told me that your relationship isn't that serious since he hasn't proposed in so long. Now, I argued back. That was because we're both still in school. We continued arguing for a little while before I finally just said, forget it, I'm going home. I got called all sorts of awful names going out of the room and packed up and left. I got a lot of calls on the way home, which I ignored until my boyfriend called. Apparently, the bride called him and told him I just left for no reason, and he called to check in on me. I told him everything that had happened, and he was kind of dumbstruck by it all. Anyways, after the wedding, I've had the bride, the groom, and all the friends call or message me telling me how horrible of a person I am just for leaving the night before the wedding for no reason, none of which were receptive to my side of things, and it's starting to worry me that maybe I overreacted by just leaving like that. Anyway, was I in the wrong for leaving? Let me know. I'd love to hear your response.